So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Leverage. My name is Olumide Funmi and I'll be your host today. Today we have someone a bit special, someone that's doing something very different, but it's still in fintech. So today we have Funmi of Toddler. Hi, Funmi. How are you doing today?
Hi, Olumide. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm doing really well.
Great. Absolutely great to have you here. So let's just kick off this conversation with just you telling us what Toddler is about.
Sure thing. So Todlrs are on a mission to create a world where no one ever has to have money problems, stress, or worries again, right? So we live in a world where 77% of adults live paycheck to paycheck and are stressed, right? Money sometimes makes us anxious, it makes us uncomfortable, it stresses us out. So what Toddler is doing is that we're fixing this problem for the next generation in two ways. One, by helping their parents invest for them, so their future goals like college, car, home. And in addition to investing for them, we also help parents educate their children about money by playing games and watching videos. So the big goal there is if we're able to help you invest for your child and we're able to help you teach them about money, you're going to raise your child in a way that their relationship with money is much healthier. They have the resources to go after their dreams, and then they have the skills to manage their wealth.
Great. So I think one thing that you mentioned that is very key is teaching children about money and finances from a young age. Because I can say for a lot of us, when we were growing up, when we were learning in school, we were never really taught about money. So
Absolutely.
it wasn't until we got to college or university and we're on our own and we're starting out as young adults that we then just started learning about saving and investing. Some of us didn't probably even start saving until our mid-20s, I would say. So I think what you're doing is very important because the younger that we teach children about the value of money, the value of investing, and then the value of money itself, I think that's pretty important. So what
Mhm.
exactly inspired you to actually start Toddler?
Great question. So I agree with you that it is very important that we educate children about money. And also, I had a similar background as you, right? Wasn't taught about money. My parents, school didn't teach me about money, right? And my parents couldn't. And I was especially curious about learning about money growing up. So when I first started learning about money, it was at age 16 when I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that was the closest thing to financial
The
education.
famous rich dad, poor dad.
Exactly. That was the closest thing to financial education I ever had, right? But what inspired Toddler happened several years after that, right? So for context, I was in a phase of life where this was 2021, towards the end of 2021. I was working two jobs. So I had the privilege of working at Bamboo, which is a fintech startup in Africa. And then while working at Bamboo, I was also working at Magic Fund, which is an early stage fund. So I was working at both a startup and an investment firm at the same time. And I was making a significant amount of money, right? I was making a significant amount of money. I was stressed. So I'm like, let me take a break, right? Let me go on leave. And despite the fact that I was making a significant amount of money, my bills always found a way to match it, right? Like my expenses, my lifestyle, I always found a way to match it. I would still, to some extent, live paycheck to paycheck. I still felt like I wasn't saving enough. I felt like I was overspending. My friends would call me for financial advice. I mean, I'm a babu now, you know about investing, right? I
Give
would
you a
give them
subscription.
all. Exactly. I would give them all the financial advice that there is, but I wasn't following it myself, right? So I was stressed, I was worried. And while, being stressed about it, I was then having a conversation with Sheung, who's my co-founder. And I realized that he was having a similar experience, right? He was also stressed and worried about money. We're like, are we the only ones? They realized we're not the only ones with that. A lot of people generally, money makes us stressed and we don't talk about it. So that made us really curious about the problem. Started asking ourselves, what if we're trust fund babies? Maybe, if our parents had invested for us this amount of money, you life will not be this stressful. And it was right in that point that we said, oh, there's actually a problem here that needs to be solved. There's the problem of financial stress, of worry, of anxiety that we need to solve from multiple angles. And right there and then, Toddler was birthed.
Ah, okay, I see. So there's something you said that I want to touch on and probably compare and contrast Nigeria and the West. So in the
Mhm,
West, you hear a lot about trust fund babies, people that their parents have already set up, these kind of things like toddler. They've already started investing towards their future for college, just so that they have life easier. But then
mhm,
over here in Nigeria, it's very rare. You hear some
mhm,
people's parents, they leave them property or land in some place, or they leave them a sum of cash that as at the time they're looking into them and as at the time they can actually access it, inflation has
mhm.
probably drastically reduced the value of that cash. So as someone that is trying to launch Toddler both in the US and here in Nigeria, what exactly is the difference that you've seen amongst the mentality in terms of saving towards your children's future?
Okay, that's a great question, right? With Todlrs specifically, we're focused on the US market, right? And from similar to what you said, it's already a behavior for them to invest for their children in one way or the other, right? Although, what is popular is trust funds, in reality, less than 2% of Americans actually, inherit a trust fund. But investing generally, when they invest, they tend to invest for college, right? So the average US family sets aside about $3,600 for their child's college every year, right? So they already have that habit. So the difference between a market there like that and here is that in this area, we barely have, in Nigeria and West Africa, the habit of investing, for things like college, it's not really there, right? Over there in the US, parents already invest for things like college. So what Toddler is doing for them is, oh, in addition to college, how about we help you invest for many other things like a home, a car, a house. Whereas in West Africa, it is, oh, whatever it is that you inherit at a certain age, that is what I have to give to you. I'm not intentionally planning for your future. So the key difference there is the intentionality.
Okay, great. So speaking to that intentionality, what kind of different investment options do you offer for the parents, and then how do you make it appealing to them?
Okay. Um, so the way Toddler goes about helping invest for your child is that we reimagine the investment experience, right? So for context, like I said, in the US, the vast majority of investments that parents make are for college, right?
Yeah.
Investing towards your child's college. And what data is suggesting is that as kids get older, especially in this day and age, not that many people want to go to college, right? You have people who go to college and drop out. You have people who want to start a business, who want to travel the world, etc. So what Toddler then does is that as opposed to just investing for college as it is, we get you on board as a parent, and then we ask you, what are some of the goals that you have for your child's future? Is it college? Is it to travel the world? Is it money to start a business? And we found out that the top three goals that parents have and love the most are actually education, birthday, like their child's future birthday, like 10th, 18th, etc., and a car, which we didn't expect, right? So what Tonna does is that we help them set a goal, they pick a goal, and then we connect that goal to the best tax vehicle for it. So, for example, we connect a college goal to a 529 plan or a travel goal to a UGMA account. These are government, created tax incentivized vehicles. So once we've connected that goal to the vehicle for them, we guide them towards achieving that goal. Or you want to invest $200 at this period. You want to invest $500. You want to invest $10 every month, right? And then these investments are directed into assets based off of the parent's investment profile. So as a parent, you could be conservative, you could be aggressive, you could be balanced, right? So we connect every goal to a profile. That profile is determined by how long you want to invest for, what is that goal, what is the tolerance of a parent. And then once all of that is done, the profile determines how we invest it. So if your profile is, conservative, the vast majority of the investments will be in bonds, right? But the more aggressive it gets, you start getting ETFs and stocks. So that's how we've been able to reimagine that investment experience, allowing them to invest in these assets with as little as $1 and then involving their loved ones in the process.
Okay, okay. So what have you noticed in terms of the parents' risk appetite? Particularly this is a long-term investment for the future of their children. So have you noticed
Mhm.
if people are more conservative or if they are willing to take more risks and so they would then be willing to invest more in ETFs and stocks, or they're just conservative and they're fine with the bonds?
It varies, right? There's no clear-cut answer, and I'll tell you what determines it. First of all, it depends on the parent themselves, right? Another factor is the child's age, right? When
Ah,
the child is really young, say less than two, you just had a child, parents at that age are a bit more cautious. So you see that their goals tend to be more conservative, right? When your child is in elementary school, middle school, they tend to be a bit more balanced, a bit more growth oriented, and maybe a bit more aggressive, right? And then a second factor that's really important is the goal. What is the purpose of the investment? Parents don't gamble with their education goals, right? The vast majority of education are college goals, conservative. They just want to know that that money is there. But for something like a car or a home or money to travel the world, they're more likely to take risks and go for a balanced portfolio, a growth portfolio, an aggressive one. So that's what the data is trending towards.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. So parents that are focused more on education, they tend to be more conservative, particularly because it's a huge sum of money and they have a longer period of
Mhm.
time to amass that amount. Okay, great. So that's for the
Exactly.
investment. That's for the investment portion of Toddler. So now let's move to the gamification for finance, the gamification of finance for kids. Could you just shed more light on that? And how exactly do you ensure that the kids are actually getting value from the financial education on the platform?
Okay. Regarding the problem of financial literacy, first of all, at Todlr, we believe that it is incredibly important to help educate the next generation about money. We want to give them a soft landing. And the best way that we've seen is by making that process fun, engaging, gamified, and as close to real life experiences as possible. So I'll explain, right? We have numerous games on the Todlr app, more than 30, right? And these games are wrapped into lessons. So a game is wrapped into a lesson, and the lesson, is with the intent of impacting the kid, with some key skill, whether it is being able to differentiate between a need and a want, or being able to plan their future lifestyle, or being able to, to understand the basic concepts of savings, of budgeting, right? So for every child on Toddler, we create a learning path for them. This learning path contains lessons, and in these lessons are games. So there are lessons that they can do in 1 or 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And an example of a lesson might be, teaching the child the difference between a need and a want. And then we show them a bunch of items. Oh, here's a carrot. A carrot helps you stay healthy. Is this something that you need or something you want? You need it, right? It's food. Here's an ice cream. An ice cream is sweet and refreshing, right? But it doesn't necessarily give you the nutrients. Is this something you need or you want? It's a want. So being able to help them understand that, food, housing, bed, electricity, these are items that you need. They're necessary to live a healthy life, right? But items like toys, like ice cream, they're items that you want, and you can get them only after you've been able to get your needs, right? So children are able to play those games. Another example, so after we've taught them that simple concept, we then reinforce it with what we call situational games. For example, a pretend shop, which is, we say you have 20 toddler tokens, right? And you need to do XYZ, and you're going to a shop, what are you going to buy at the shop? Are you going to buy A, B, or C, or would you start buying different items? And after they've, bought these things, we're able to say, oh, great, you're a great spender. You're able to prioritize your needs before you want your wants. Or we're able to say, oh, there's a little bit of improvements that we can make there, right? And then the third element to this is we then bring it into real life experiences and activities with their parents. So at the end of every learning path, after the child has played the games and they've learned these basic fundamental money concepts, we bring it to real life with their parents. So it could be as simple as going to the grocery store together, where the parents make a list of where they make a list of items that they want to buy, and they go to the grocery store, they're able to budget for it, they buy it. Another example of a money project that could happen is a lemonade stand, right? The children, with the help of their parents, they set up a lemonade stand, and through that, they're able to learn entrepreneurship. They're able to learn working for money, income, etc. So we give them games, we give them lessons, we reinforce it, by giving them scenarios, and then we bring it into real life experiences.
Okay, great. So you already even partly touched on the next my next question, which is how the parents are able to get involved. So is it only in those real world scenarios that the parents get involved, or you also have courses or lessons that the parents can actually take with their children that will also be informative for the parents? Because let's not assume that parents have all the information in the world that they might also want to learn. So how exactly can they also get involved?
That's a great question, right? The way we see it is that it's like pouring from a jug into a cup, right? If parents don't know about money, they themselves can't teach it, right? So at Toddler, we want to educate the entire family. Right now, we're focused on kids, but we want to educate the entire family about money. So the same way we have learning paths for kids, in a few months, we're also going to have learning paths for parents, where parents can take bite-sized lessons, 2 minutes, 1 minute, watch a video where they learn important concepts like planning for retirement, preparing for their child's future goals, preparing for a rainy day, being able to set up the family budget, what expenses they should expect when their child is between a certain age and as their child grows older, right? So in that way, we're catering to educating parents about money, right? Um, and in the child's learning experience specifically, we also involve their parents. In addition to the real life experiences, we like to have their parents involved in those lessons as well, right? Whether it is as the child is watching the video and playing the games, the parent is by their side, right? To be able to correct them, to be able to clap for them, to be able to cheer them on. But then we recognize that parents are incredibly busy. So what we've done is we allow them to take these lessons at their pace. It could be one lesson a week for 5 minutes a week, right? And in the course of this lesson, they're able to bond with their child and impact them with very, very important and necessary financial education.
Okay, so essentially what you're saying is that the experience involves a whole lot of positive reinforcement, both from the platform, like you said, of when they do one of those test scenarios on the app of, oh great, you are able to identify a need from your want, or where you say that they can improve, as well as them also spending time with their parents, which is great. So my next question is, what strategies do you recommend for parents or guardians to ensure that their children can set up they can set up their children with a better relationship with money as they grow into adults?
It's a very simple formula, right? We call it the formula for a better money story, right? The formula for a life of financial security. And it contains two elements. It's the element of financial preparation, which is preparing for your child's tomorrow, right? By investing consistently for their future, by investing consistently for their future and starting today, starting early, starting wherever you are, right? So parents, first of all, need to prepare for their child's future. It's important that they realize, that element. And then education. So teaching your child practical money skills through games, through real life experiences. And that's exactly what Todlrs provided. So if you recognize the importance of, a good relationship with money, we've provided you with the platform that helps you prepare for their future and educate them. So that way you combine those two important elements and you're already set up, you're already setting them up for a life of financial freedom, a life of financial security.
Okay, great. So the next question I'm about to ask is coming from my Nigeria mentality of always wanting access to my money. So let's say a parent sets up a 10-year plan of investing towards their child's college fund. Let's say the child is about 7, so that means they want the child to start at 17. But
Mhm.
let's say at age 14, which is now 7 years down the line, they now decide that, okay, I would actually like to do something else with this money. Would they then be able to withdraw that money, or they have to wait for the 10-year period to elapse?
Good question. First off, right, just as a behavioral trend, parents are really consistent when it comes to their children, right? They're more likely to take out an investment that's for themselves or to their child's own, right? But to your question, yes, they have access to it, right? They can withdraw it if they feel like, oh, 7 years in, there's a more urgent issue that they need to attend to. We let them withdraw, we give them access to it. However, depending on the vehicle that it's invested in, there might be some deduction. So, for example, in the US, if you're investing in a 529 plan, whatever money that you've put there is strictly for education. The moment you withdraw from it, if you're not investing it into education, then the government is going to come for them and is going to, they're going to have to pay taxes on it, right? And if it's invested in something like a travel goal and that investment is in a UGMA account, the way UGMA accounts are set up is such that that money cannot be touched until the child is of a certain legal age, right? So in some states it's age 18, in other states it's age 21. So because of the sort of vehicle that it's invested in, they're not permitted to touch it. It's only the child that has access to it at that certain age. Do you get? So it's less about us and it's more about the vehicle that it's invested in, whether it's a 529 or a UGMA or just a regular brokerage account.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify because I'm sure that some people listening would have that question at the back of their mind of if they'll be able to withdraw at any time because like a piggy vest safe lock kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing where you have to wait for the period to elapse before you're then
Mm-hmm.
able to withdraw the money. So
Mm-hmm.
how exactly does Toddlers investment product differentiate itself from the competitors on the market, both traditional investment products and fintech products that are kind of in the same market?
Mm. That's a great question, right? I touched on this earlier, but to emphasize it, what Toddler has done is we've simply reimagined an experience, right? The investment experience for your child. So let me give you an example. Similar to what Robinhood did to stocks, right? Before Robinhood came, people were investing in stocks. Now the stock market has always been there. But what Robinhood did was they reimagined that experience and they made it more accessible. Another example is what Chime did to traditional banks, right? Traditional banks, the process was not as great, it wasn't as smooth. So they reimagined that experience to make it more accessible, right? So that's similar to what Toddler is doing, right? When it comes to parents and investing for their children, they're still limited in access, right? They're limited in access. The experience is not great, right? They're limited to all 529s for education, and that's what they're able to get from their bank or their broker, right? So what we've done is we've made that process a lot easier. We've looked at it from what is important to you as a consumer, what is important to you as a parent. And for you as a parent, what is important is two things. One, you want to make sure that your children they are set up for a better life. You don't want them to struggle. You don't want them to experience stress. So that's what is important to you. So how do we build an investment experience around it? And that's why it starts from the parent. As a parent, you create a profile for your child. You then select the goals that you want to hit. And then without any investment experience, you're able to get started with as little as $1, right? And then the second element that's also important, particularly for these investment processes, we also bring the loved ones, right? So the uncles, the aunties, the grandparents, the godparents, right? We bring them into that process because it takes a community to raise a child, right? So we bring them into that process, and together, through their gifts, through co-investing, they're able to prepare for their little ones' big goals.
So what you essentially done is you've combined the best of both worlds of being a Nigerian and living in America because like you said, it takes a whole community to raise a child. That's something that is very common around Nigerians. Of you have your uncles, your aunties, and just other members always there to raise you, as well as this American mentality of saving and setting up your children for a better financial future than you had. So that's some. Do you agree with that? That's something that you just combined. You might not have knowingly done it, but it's just something that you've been able to do.
Honestly, I agree with you, right? On a subconscious level, growing up in Nigeria, that element has definitely been there. Just growing up in a community and seeing the involvement of your loved ones in that process, right? And having said that, it doesn't discount the fact that even in Western, economies or Western parts of the world like the US, in Europe, right? Family members are also just as involved, right? To a large extent, whether it is from the baby shower presents to the child's first birthday, their family members are, for example, grandparents. It would surprise you to know that grandparents end up being the ones to cover the largest part of a child's education bill, not even parents. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these family members are also, they also want to be, whether it is through, contributing to a college goal or actually even covering that expense. So we're just creating an experience that enables to be more involved in the process, more streamlined, and makes it clear that they are working towards a common goal together for this child that they love so much.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yes. So I do agree with like you said, contributing more towards because at that stage of their lives, they are more content with the amount of money that they've made, and so they just want to make things easier for the younger ones in their family. So I do agree with that. So my next question is, how far along are you with your journey and the product of the founder?
Great question. So we're currently in closed beta with 200 parents on our investment. We've built half of these money games, and we're also testing it with them. And we're also doing our market round work with the intent of launching towards the end of next month. So the necessary partnerships that have been required to this investment product, the regulatory partnerships, the brokerage partnerships, the coverings from the SEC, etc. We've done all of that, heavy lifting. And with the learning products, the conversations, the endless conversations with parents, with children, to better understand how to build these products and these games to them. We've done all of that work, and we're just establishing the distribution partnerships through communities that help us go to market in the most significant and the loudest way possible next month.
Okay, so you'll be launching soon. So my next question is, what are some of the challenges you face because you've decided to go into a market that is extremely and tightly regulated by the SEC,
Mhm.
particularly because of what happened in the 2008 financial crisis. So, what has been your experience with some of the challenges that you faced, and then just how tough it is to deal with the regulators like the SEC?
Great question. So particularly with the investment product, what we've tried to do is we've tried to stay as lean as possible. We're a very product and consumer driven company. We're obsessed with our users. We're obsessed with our products. So just building the best possible product for our users. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to stay regulatory light in as many ways as possible. So for example, as opposed to being registered as an SEC broker dealer. We have, partnerships with reputable firms in the US that help, take care of all of that interaction, right? And enable us to focus fully on our consumer and our product.
Okay, okay, great. So you've essentially tried to limit your interactions with regulators like the SEC. Okay, that's great.
In the early days, it just allows us to build this company. And then later on, as the company becomes huger and more successful, we can then bring in all of those heavy work in-house, all of that heavy work in-house.
Okay. So my final question is just what are the medium to long-term goals for Toddler, and how do you plan to continue innovating?
I love that question. And the reason why I love it is I say it all the time that Toddler is a long game, right? I sincerely believe that the greatest value in Toddler would begin to show its first signs of fruition 10, 15, 20 years from now. And the reason why is parents are investing for their children. Some of them are one. The youngest child account that has been created on Toddler was created when the child was 3 months old. Right. So that child is only going to really, really, really benefit the value of Toddler 17 years and 9 months from now. Right. So what I'm excited to see is what is the impact like in the lives of these toddlers in the next generation. I can't wait to see the impact in their everyday lives, to see them not having to worry and stress about these things. Right. That's the first thing. I want to see that impact. I also want to see toddlers solve this problem globally, right? The problem that we're solving is not limited to one geography or one background or one socioeconomic background, because whether you like it or not, even the richest of richest still experience money problems, right? From or the other. We want to solve this problem US, in parts of North America, in Canada. We want to solve it in the UK. We want to solve it in Africa, in Nigeria. So we want to solve as many parts of the world as possible, scale globally. So that's another thing that I'm excited about. And regarding innovation, what we're doing is that we're building an ecosystem of products to help the next generation in different touch points. So investment is one element of it. Education is another element of it. So the way I see it is that investments, when your child is between the age 0 to 5, that's when you want to take advantage of it the most. You want to start early. When your child is between the age 5 to 10, 12, you want to take advantage of our learning products, in as many ways as possible, because that's when the child is building habits. And then when your child is 13, 14, 15, we also want to, provide them with their first digital bank, their first credit card, their first bank accounts, right? So for innovation for us is, as we're obsessed with these consumers, with the families, with parents and their children, how many other solutions can we build for them to meet them in different parts of their journey, right? So that is it for us.
Okay, that's great. So we can't wait to see what Toddler has in store for us, particularly as you'll be launching next month. So thank you very much, Fumi, for spending this time with us and telling us more about Toddler. We can't wait to see what you do. So thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.